One of the most monumental moments in sports history happened on April 15th, 1947. On this day, Jackie Robinson broke the MLB's color barrier and later became a symbol of hope that there would be a change in segregation. I hope by the end of my speech, you will feel the significant impact that Jackie Robinson made on the U.S. as a whole. He was born in Georgia in 1919. His mother single-handedly raised him and his 4 siblings. And they obviously had a strong bond. They were one of the only black families on the block and in the neighborhood, so Jackie kind of faced a lot of racism, and that he grew into a man pretty early in his life. He later went to UCLA for schooling. He was the first athlete in UCLA history to have 4 letters: baseball, basketball, football, and track. And he was an All-American in football. He later enlisted in the Army due to financial issues. He couldn't pay for college, and it was near graduation, so that took kind of a mental toll on him at the time. He was very successful in the Army. He later progressed into second lieutenant, which is a very big deal. And he left due to racial issues in the Army, and later came back to baseball. In 1945, he played 1 season with the Kansas City Monarchs, which is a Midwest team who travels all over the Midwest in the Negro Leagues. He led the league in batting average and stolen bases, which was hard to do because the league was very big. He obviously had greater achievements in the future. In 1947, the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey, approached him and asked him if he wanted to be a part of the Dodgers organization. There wasn't a black player since 1889, since they segregated the MLB, so it was kind of a big deal at the time, and it was one of the first sports. It was one of the only major sports at the time, so it was kind of a big deal that a black man would be playing with the white people. Obviously, breaking the color barrier wasn't easy. Faced a lot of racism. There's fans constantly throwing bottles at him. His teammates would protest so that he could be on the team. Opponents threw pitches at him. They'd step on him. They'd find any way possible to hurt him. He got a lot of death threats from fans, opposing teams, and even his teammates, and it kind of took a very big mental toll on him. It was one of the hardest parts of his life, especially mentally. He couldn't stay in any of the hotels with the team or eat with the team. Despite the challenges, he was obviously still very successful. He led the league in batting average and stolen bases, which was hard to do at the time because the league was stacked with a lot of good players. His batting average was .311, and he later retired in 1957 and became a civil rights activist and a spokesperson for Colored Association, fighting for equal rights. He did a lot of successful speeches, spoke with MLK a lot, and MLK obviously was a very successful activist. So he had a huge impact on society at the time. The U.S. was facing a lot of segregation and racism, and he kind of helped prevent that, especially in MLB. He's the first black baseball player in the Hall of Fame, which was a big deal at the time. He had an autobiography published in 1972. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor on American civilization or American civilian can receive. He died in October 24th, 1972. He died of a heart attack at his home. He's still honored and celebrated heavily to this day. On April 15th, every single player in the MLB, if you play a game that day, they'll wear the number 42 on their back, which he wore through his time with the Dodgers organization. And so everyone in the MLB wears his number, and that number was 42, and it was later retired. So there's a bunch of statues, memorials, and even museums dedicated to him, trying to keep his story alive. As you can tell, Jackie Robinson made a huge impact on not just baseball, but the U.S. as a whole. There was a lot of segregation and racism going on at the time, so people thought it was a big deal that Jackie could do such a thing and overcome this segregation. Jackie is still honored to this day for his courage. As people know, the challenges were not easy. He faced a lot of the stuff like being hurt, yelled at, screamed at, a lot of racism, and he was even hurt physically and mentally. Jackie's legacy, it continues to inspire others as they fight for equality and justice. You see that a lot today in today's society.